Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the dark side of mythic monsters. So this is just going to be a video of me talking through my thought process, just giving you guys my insights and my opinions on some of the changes coming to Monster Legends, because sometimes I feel like I have a very unique perspective, or at least definitely a different perspective than a lot of players. And just to preface this, I want to start off by saying that usually I am very open-minded. I am always looking forward to change, where I think most people are very opposed to change, which is weird to me because if things are going in a direction that aren't that great, you would expect you want some sort of change, but a lot of times when change is introduced, it's like everyone is against it. So I don't know, so let's just jump into it, and again, particularly this is going to talk about mythic monsters and what are they going to do to the game. So first of all, I feel like as a species, typically people have this negative bias where we assume everything is gonna go wrong. We assume the absolute worst. And so when it comes to these monsters, probably the biggest thing I've been reading and hearing is that with the introduction of mythic monsters, they are going to significantly outclass legendary monsters, and thus legendary monsters are the new epics. They're useless, they're never gonna be used. And I'll be the first to admit, that's a possibility. That could happen. Or maybe they will be used together, legendary monsters and mythic monsters, in which case that's the ideal scenario, and I think that's what SocialPoint is going for. So assuming these new monsters get introduced and they balance the game correctly, I hope that's what happens. Now, is it possible that they do outclass legendary monsters? Yeah, I suppose it is. But here, let me introduce this thought, and then you guys can let me know what you think. So going back to this idea that legendary monsters are going to be outclassed, they're going to be the new epics. Why don't we go through the legendary monsters right now? You see this group of monsters? Tell me when was the last time you used any of them. Or let's go to the next group. When was the last time you used any of them? If we keep scrolling, let's see when I can finally recognize a monster that I see. So I see some of the generals that I guess are used only when the Team Wars calls for it, but really none of these monsters are used. I haven't touched any of these monsters in all the time I've played. Let me see. Zyla doesn't get touched ever. Let me see. Where is a monster that I've actually used recently? Scrolling down, we're almost at 400 already, and I haven't used any of these monsters. Oh, look, there's a Hackster. I have not used Hackster in a long time. Remember when Hackster came out and he was like the meta, and he was the go-to denier? I have literally never touched my Hackster. I don't even know where he's at, what his name is, what runes he has. Let me keep going. None of these. Hey, am I passing some Nemesis monsters that I've never even touched? I don't even have. Lucifer, I recently got them thanks to the Colossal Breeding events, but never used a Lucifer. I have my rank 4 Barakor. I have not used that monster in forever. Jazzastar used to be an amazing monster, have not used. Warthog, I only ever use them when there's a Nemesis Survival Dungeon. Sammy, my go-to monster, the king of Nemesis monsters. Have never touched them. We are literally at number 500 right now, approaching 500, and I haven't used any of these. Kihaku, the go-to water denier. I do not know when the last time I used Kihaku was. He's been replaced by Thalassa literally every single chance I get to. And we are finally at 500. I see Ruby. Ruby, the go-to queen. Or, I guess not queen, because it's not a gender monster. But one of the go-to Nemesis monsters. Also, have at rank 5, level 130, level 10 runes. Never use anymore. I use my 120 Charizard, who has True Vision, instead of a Ruby. So the only time Ruby ever gets some gameplay is during the Nemesis Survival Dungeon. Scrolling down, let's see. Gosh, where's a monster I'm gonna recognize that I actually use? Oh my gosh, where are they? Necromancer, nope, haven't touched him in forever. Elvira, oh, there she is, Thalassa, 580. There's a monster I use, Warmaster Thalassa. Patient Cyber, not really, haven't used him in a while. Neobuki's a monster I use. Remntar, there we go. There's a monster I use combined with Neobuki. None of these shares are here. Oh, Ragnarök, there you are. Dunra, there you are. Okay, here we go. Here are the monsters I'm using. Hukuai, there you are. So, what did you notice? Literally, there are over 500 legendary monsters that I have never used, that most players, if you're a top player, you have never used or touched. Why? Because the current meta monsters have significantly outplaced them, okay? So, what's weird to me is that players are saying that, oh, the Mystic monsters, they're gonna make all the other legendaries into epics. To be fair, like, some of the current monsters we have right now, Ragnarök, Wormlad, the meta monsters, the Dodge area, the Megaton monsters, they're already kind of the mystics of legendary monsters. Even though they're not called mystics, that's essentially what they are. So introducing this new rarity, the official mystic, it's like, okay, you made a new rarity, but to be honest, like Thalassa, some of these monsters could already be placed in that category, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense, right? It's kind of how like generals used to rule the game, right? Well, first it was the basic legendaries, then generals got introduced, and they had the tough trait, 35% of the chance they can't get denied or negative effect, and so they significantly outclassed a huge portion of legendary monsters. And then VIPs came along, and they have Bulwark, 50% of the time they can't get denied, and then they dominated the game. And then came the Nemesis monsters, and then the VIPs were forgotten. And then after Nemesis came the Warmasters, and then the Nemesis monsters were forgotten. Again, I never use my Sammy as much as I love them, never use them. I never use the Nemesis, Zyron the Ruby, even though it's ranked 130, level 130, rank 5, level 10 runes, never use Ruby anymore. And then came the Forsaken monsters, and honestly I feel like the Forsakens were kind of a waste, because of the way Forsakens were made. I have no idea what SocialPoint was thinking. I have a ton of them, I never use them. Like, look at my Wildbird, he's only level 20, never use them. These that are 100, he's only 100 because I had to feed for Growth Spurt events. The only Forsaken monster I use is probably Nazael, and that's because he's a good team speed holder that can revive. Everyone else, Centurion I also use from time to time, but everyone else doesn't get used. A lot of monsters really don't get used. So, to me it's funny because this idea that mythic monsters are going to make legendary epics, a lot of monsters already make legendary epics. And the only good thing about Forsaken monsters being introduced into the game is they didn't really impact because the majority of players didn't really get a chance to use them. And so that's one thing I've always said, where when a monster is difficult to obtain, on one hand it's a good thing because you don't see a ton of them. Whereas if a monster is easy to obtain, then you see a ton of them everywhere. And I'll give you some examples if I just go to multiplayer. So if I go to rankings, watch. If I go to rankings, if I click on the top player, look at these monsters. There's a Wildbird, there's a Centurion, 2 Forsaken monsters, there is a Lord Pumpseed. If I look at the monsters, I guarantee you this player has like all of them maxed out. Like that, all those 130 Forsaken. So this player spends, right? Let me click on the next player. Look, so here's the interesting one. Grakon was a monster they could actually use Elementium on. So when a monster is available like that, and players have Elementium, they can easily rank it up. So it's interesting to me because it's like, on one hand, if SocialPoint makes a monster easily rankable with Elementium, bam, you have an instant 130. And if a lot of players have the Elementium to rank up or Elemental Cells, you're going to see so many in PvP, even when you yourself can't afford it. But when you introduce Forsakens and a lot of players can't get it that easily ranked up, even though you can't get it ranked up, that also discourages a player from spending a lot of money and ranking it up. So again, it might be kind of a good thing. And that's why I love the Warmaster formula, how it took hard, and if you were free to play, you could just grind it out and still get them. So I will always love the Warmaster formula. If these new monsters, if these mythic monsters have the Warmaster formula, I would love it. Now, of course, I have my own issues with it. The fact that there's going to be a mythic monster in a team race, and so already players are going to be walking away with a rank 4, rank 3, rank 5 mythic monster right off the bat. Oh my gosh, that's no good. And like, if SocialPoint would have done like 1 mythic monster at a time, no, they're doing like 4 mythic monsters at the beginning. Like, how? That's so much. So I'm not totally on their side. I feel like they're releasing too much too fast already. Like, we just got the introduction, there's going to be mythic monsters, and already, hey, if you buy the Legends Pass, you get this Denier, you get Armor Claw, and then there's a race, and if you place in the top whatever, or if you complete X number of laps, you get a mythic monster. So already there's 3, and one's a Denier, one's a tank, one's an attacker, or 2 other attackers. It's like, okay, I'm already starting to feel overwhelmed, and I thought this was supposed to kind of bring it back to the old gameplay, where everything wasn't so complex and convoluted, and all that stuff. So again, I do have my own issues with it, but in terms of this whole argument that mythics are going to make legendaries obsolete, and I can't believe I wasted 5 years of grinding, and I don't think that's really going to be the case. The stats are definitely insane. If it's a fully ranked up mythic, oh my gosh, if you look at the stats, it's mind-blowing. I think though, if you can only get a level 100, a level 110, 120, I think those are going to be pretty much on par with like a 120 to 130 monster in terms of damage output, at least from what I've done in my calculations. I mean, I'll even show you in this video, so I could definitely see the fear initially, but here, I'll just playtest real quick, and you're gonna be maybe surprised by what you see. So here's my Armor Claw with 23,000 power. Insane, right? Here I have a Barakor with half of that, 11,000, and here I have a 130 Super Dan. Let's take a look at some damage outputs. So I Duel You deals 50 damage, and it deals 48k damage against this monster right here. Save Rossigod deals 39 damage. But look at my power output, 23k. So let's just go ahead and just remember that, 48k for this I Duel You skill. Alright, so we'll just attack someone, and watch my weak, my super weak Super Dan with 7,000 power. So Armor Claw has 3 times the power, and check this out, Merciless Blast deals 36k. You would think that Armor Claw probably dealt more damage with that 23k power, no? And I think it has to do because of the level. Like, that difference in level, the fact that it's a 130 to a 110 to a level 100, the power doesn't matter so much as the level differential. So the fact that he has a 30 level advantage, I think that's what still makes him significantly stronger in terms of power output. So I think that's a good thing, right? If I do my 50 damage skill, like, that's 24k. Again, if this is 24k, and my power is 3 times less than Armor Claw, you would think that Supreme Forces would be, you would think that the skill I did, I Duel You with Armor Claw, would be like 3 times stronger, but it's not. You saw it only that 48k, it's only twice as strong, even though it's a factor of 3. So I think that's an interesting thing, right? I only have level 3 runes on this monster, whereas this one is rocking level 10 runes. So his base power, 5,000 whatever, even, like, no way are they on the same level in terms of, even though they have the same power, I think the level differential makes it kind of balanced, if that makes sense, right? And then I'll compare it to Barakor. Barakor has half Armor Claw's power, and take a look at Bestial Charge. I am dealing 43k. So, yeah, it's just like, compared to I Duel You, which was 50 damage, this skill is just as strong, essentially, and I have half the power, and I'm level 120, so I'm thinking the level differential is going to be a good balancer. And then, again, it depends how hard it is. If SocialPoint makes it kind of difficult to rank up these monsters, like, if most free-to-play players can get Armor Claw at rank 1 or rank 2, I think that's going to be pretty much on par with a 120 to 130 monster, which, if that's the case, that's a good thing because it doesn't make legendaries obsolete. It makes them be able to work together in tandem. So you're going to have to partner up your 120 Thalassa with your level 110 Taunt Armor Claw combined with another ally, and I think if they go for that, that'll be good. And this is why I'm a little opposed, not even a little, I'm super opposed kind of to the race and introducing a mythic monster in a race, because again, players walk away with a rank 4, one team will walk away with a rank 5, and then that's the worst thing ever, because then not only are they level 150, they have the level advantage and everything, that's when things become unbalanced. But I mean, you know, that'll only be like one team, a set of 30 players, so I don't know how bad it'll be. Another thing about like the whole another argument is like the free-to-play gap versus pay-to-win gap. I think that gap will always exist. No matter what, you really can't do anything about it. I think whenever SocialPoint introduces something into the game, or any game in general, that benefits free-to-play players, I think it'll greatly influence a pay-to-win player because they have the funds to pay. If you think about this Colossal event that just happened, right? This Amazing Fire Colossal Breeding event, players were able to get fire monsters guaranteed, or legendary monster guaranteed, right? I got a ton of Mephistos. I used like 300 gems in that event, so I got a ton of Mephistos. Check it out, legendary fire. I got a ton of Mephistos. I got a bunch of these Nemesis monsters. I don't even know why I did it. I guess I just got excited and I'm like, ooh, cool, I get a chance to get them. But like, imagine the players that actually spent money on the event. If they put $100, if they put $50, they literally got 2 rank 5 monsters and maybe some rewards from legendary overlords. So even though it benefited me, who, okay, so like I'm a casual spender, I guess now, to a player that spends money on, who spends gems, it'll always benefit them greatly. That's always going to be the case. So I don't, like, that's always going to be the thing. Same with mythic monsters, like, they're going to be introduced. If they're super expensive, again, it might be a good thing because the only players that are going to be getting them maxed out are going to be the heavy spenders. And in every game, there's always going to be a heavy spender. Again, if I go to multiplayer, and if I show the rankings, I guarantee you the top 3 players, they're the ones that have, like, the maxed out. They're the ones that spend the big bucks. You can even tell just by looking at the attacks. This player has done 1,367 attacks. That is insane to me. 1,367? This player doesn't get first place because they are like better than everyone else essentially, they get first place because they do more attacks. If I show you the second place person, 525 attacks. If I show you, everyone knows Bonesaw, 669 attacks. That is insane to me. Like, it's ridiculous. If I scroll down, I bet, to like 20th, let's see, I bet they're not doing anywhere near that many attacks. 171. 172. Let's keep looking. 200. Right, so you can see, if I keep scrolling down, the player in 30th place, 260. The big difference between the players that get first and the players that are like top 50, it's the fact that these people are doing so many attacks. If you look at me, watch, and I think you already saw my team profile, I legit have only 100 attacks. Let's look at some of my teammates. Some pretty competitive teammates. Pat is Legendary 4 5.6, 98 attacks. That's all Pat has done. Let's take a look at Dave. Dave is in Legendary 3 League with only 34 attacks the whole season. So how can you compare the fact that Dave has only done 34 attacks in the whole entire season, whereas the person in first place has literally done 300, oh, I'm in the wrong place, where the person in first place has literally done 1,300 attacks. 34 to 1,300, ridiculous, right? And again, I'll just pick on Bonesaw, like 669, that's a lot of attacks. You're paying for attacks at that point. And again, just looking at the monsters, there we have all the Forsakens at 130, right? Ridiculous. Well, not all of them, some of them were missing. Let's see how Bone is doing. I think Bone has a good amount of them as well. 130, 130, 130, Corrupt is, so not Wild, oh no, he actually has 2 Wild Birds. PVZ Ronin is unranked, but a lot of 130, the Elites are 130. So you don't get this just being a casual player, you have to spend a good amount of money to get that kind of stuff. Here, let's look at this player. You see, even this person that's in 15th has only done 171 attacks, but has still spent and has gotten a good... Oh no, so this player doesn't have all the Forsakens, but they have the more competitive Forsakens. Now, here's the thing. What do you notice about some of the players I looked at? We've seen this multiplayer tag team before, right? Yes, it looks very familiar. Who was it? Was it you? Oh, look, there it is. Literally the same monsters. That defense team, that also looks very familiar. A lot of times, the very meta monsters, they get used over and over, right? Because they're meta. So, like, the thing is, there needs to be some sort of change implemented to the game to expand the number of monsters that gets used. I've heard that introducing these mythic monsters will just make it so that no other legendary monster is used, but like, that already happens. Again, with the current monsters you saw, they may not be called mythics, they're just legendaries, but they're an elite group of legendaries that essentially makes all the other legendaries epics. So going back to that whole argument that, oh, the legendaries are going to be worthless, so most of them already are. I would say like 90% of them, probably even 95% of them, don't even get used. Even if I show you like Team Wars, and I'll go to the competitive ones that we lost, so Revenge of the Noobs, I guarantee you, if I just go through the war events, you're going to see the same monsters used over and over and over again. Watch, there's Wormlad, Ragnarok, and we had to use a Team War monster, so there's some Team War monsters. Okay, look. See, if you look at the base on the right, literally the same monster used over and over again. I see Thalassa, I see Wormlad. I see Thalassa, I see Wormlad, or Izel. Let's keep going. There's Wormlad, there's Thalassa. Let's keep going. There's Wormlad, there's Thalassa. Even on our side, look, what was my defense? My defense was Wormlad and Thalassa. Because there are certain monsters that are just meta that get used every single time. Right? There's Thalassa, there's Wormlad, there's General Holter's Bodyguard, because he's a very good Team War monster if you have him. Let's take a look at a different war against Team Spirit 2015, which we also lost. Details, war events. Here, let's just scroll to a random one. There's Wormlad, there's Thalassa again. Didn't I just see it in a different war? Oh, look at mines. Wormlad, Thalassa again. Let's see what else. Wormlad, Thalassa. Literally every single thing is like the same thing over and over and over again. So currently in the game, there is no complexity. It's literally the same thing over and over. We took on Power Fun. Let's see how this went. War events. Let's scroll to a random one. There's Thalassa, there's Ragnarok, there's Izel. There's Centurion, there's a Wormlad, there's I don't even know his name. I was about to say Heyman. There's Pumpseed. There's Brutalis, there's Wormlad, there's Ragnarok, there's Hukuai. Again, it's literally, where's Kihaku, right? You don't see Kihaku. Why? Because Kihaku's never going to get used anymore. So, I think introducing this is a good thing. I think we needed some sort of change going down the same direction was obviously not a good thing, so we needed some sort of change. So again, I'm always open-minded. I think you have to be open to change and hope for the best. You know, every time something major got released, whether it be relics, people hated relics, but then they get used to it. I think that's always going to be the thing. I think players quit too early, and again, we assume the negative words from like, oh, it's going to ruin the game, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be blah blah blah. I don't know. Let's just be open-minded. Let's give it a chance. Let's just hope that it works out. Again, there's always going to be an elite group of players that spend a ton of money, and then when you see videos of them and how powerful they are, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's not fair, I'm never going to be able to compete. But you got to remember, it's different leagues and everything. Like, I never expect to be able to get legendary leader. One, I'm not going to do over 1,000 attacks. Two, I'm not going to spend the gems for that, and I'm not going to spend money to get Forsaken monsters. And that's another thing. I feel like a lot of times, and no like shade or anything, a lot of times the players that tend to complain the most are the big spenders, more so than like the free-to-play players. Because free-to-play players, I feel like we learn to kind of cope and just roll with the punches, right? Like, we know we're never going to get level 10 runes to put on our monsters, like a ton of them. Like, again, I guarantee you, if I show you any of the top players, like probably even like top 50, I guarantee you they don't even have level 10 runes. I guarantee they have mutant level 10 runes. Look, watch, literally every single monster I click on, like, this is not to be able to use Wildbird and be able to use these strength stamina runes. This is rare because not everyone can afford to use Wildbird with his 204 stamina unless they have those mutant runes. But I guarantee you every single monster I click on is gonna have those mutant runes. So this isn't something that you should be trying to compare yourself with, like something you can actually get. This is again gonna be the heavy spenders. And I could probably click on some of the monsters over here and they probably have the mutant runes as well. Let's see. Or maybe not all of them, but some of them. Oh, I wonder. Oh, wow. And look, like, I think it's funny. Again, no shade to this player, whoever it is. I'm sure you're lovely. We don't want mythics. You don't want mythics, but at the same time, like, the current Forsaken monsters, which I think no one likes, really. You have mutant runes on them, and you have them ranked up to 130s. Like, really, the current Forsakens are like your current mythics. I don't know. It's just a funny thing. Again, no shade to anyone, but I just feel like a lot of time the top spenders, it's because they realize if they want to stay on top, they're going to have to spend even more than they already spend, right? Imagine spending so much on Forsakens and now seeing these mythics that are maybe possibly going to outclass everything you've spent on. Now, if you want to stay on top, you got to spend more. Whereas, like, the players that are more free-to-play or maybe casual spenders, they're like, you know, I can roll with it. You know, I can take on a competitive team with a 105 Centurion, with a 105 Dunraw, and just synergize. Because you don't need 130 and level 10 runes to be able to beat a base. You just need strategy and skill. So that's one thought. Is there a solution to mythics and like how to balance game? I don't think so. I think, and I've long said this, I think the anytime there's exclusively paid content, that's always going to create some sort of disparities between players. Just hands down, that's going to happen. I think the game, if you wanna like single out a point that ruined the game, quote unquote, I would have to say it was the introduction of, one, exclusively paid content, and two, the Elemental Frat event. And to give you an example, when VIP monsters were released, right, that's exclusively paid content. The only way to get VIP monsters was to spend money on them. Now, VIP monsters, they were initially sold for $20, and they were so powerful because they had the Bulwark trait, which is obviously unfair if you're trying to deny them and they don't deny and then they kill you, right? So VIP monsters were $20, and at the time of VIP monsters, they also introduced ranking up all the way to level 130. If you wanted to rank a VIP monster all the way to level 130, you would have to spend $20 times 17, because you needed 17 copies of the monster to extract and rank up all the way to level 130. You would have to spend 20 times 17, $340. A single player for a single VIP monster all the way to level 130 would have to spend $340. But wait a minute, then came the Frat event, the Elementium Frat event, which I just don't understand how players were like, okay, yeah, let's do this. Well, I do understand. When the Elemental Frat event, it became an easy way to rank up monsters. It started with the generals. Initially, when a player bought a gem pack and got 1700 gems, the whole team got 400 war coins, and hence the level 130 generals were born. And that's when it was so hard in the meta where you couldn't even beat, like, Thetis would go first, stamina drain you, you literally couldn't do anything. It sucked. If General 2 went first, he AoE stunned you, it sucked. It was terrible. So anyways, when Elementium Frat event came, up came the 130 generals. And again, if a team is a spending team, literally everyone in the team now has 130 generals. In terms of VIP monsters, imagine if one player bought a 1700 gem pack, then the whole team got 30 Elementium. Now imagine if every single player on the team did that. If every single person on the team bought a 1700 gem pack, every single player would get 30 times 30, 900 Elementium. Okay, let's say every single player bought 2 packs. If every single player got 2 packs, every single player would have spent $100, but now the whole entire team has 1800 Elementium. And maybe I'm doing my math wrong, but I know it's something like that because I've done it before. So it's like, wait a minute, before a single player would have to spend $340 by themselves for them just to get a level 130 monster. But now, thanks to Elementium Frat, not only do they get the gems they normally would have gotten, the 1700 gem pack twice, the whole entire team has a ton of Elementium, so everyone can rank up their VIP. It's like, that disparity, when that began, I think that's what really started differentiating between like pay to win and like non-spenders, casual spenders, because you can't compete with that. And that's why I was always so confused why players loved the Elementium Frat event and why they always wanted it. And it's funny too, because when SocialPoint started doing the Warcoin Frat events, players were like, no, give us back the Elementium Frat event. And it's like, guys, don't you see that Elementium Frat event is like ruining the economy of the game by making it so easy to rank up monsters? You know, another argument I heard was like, oh, what about all the Elementium we've saved up? And I mean, of course, like, I've saved up a ton of Elementium. Where is my Elementium? My Elementium is somewhere here. I have a lot of cells. I have a lot of Elementium, right? But I'm not really, yeah, I have 3,000. I'm not really complaining. I'm not gonna be like, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to use it for my mythic monsters. Like, honestly, I'll use Elementium. I'll get a Madam Fusion finally. I'll rank her up because I think she'll still be quite valuable in any kind of gameplay. Yeah, it's one of those weird things where I don't understand how people were okay with Elementium Frat event and even demand it, if that's what, in my opinion, ruined the game economy. Hopefully that made sense. In terms of like the Mythic Amber, I think SocialPoint will probably do a thing where you can extract legendary monsters or epic monsters and get some Amber, so that'll be fine. I'm sure that'll come in the future. What else? Let's see. I'm pretty sure the space thing is probably a legit issue where, yeah, players are running out of space. This definitely applies more to long-term players because I know my baby account, I can do plenty of stuff for space, but everything else does have a bunch of habitats that, and again, like 99% of these monsters I never even use. If I could probably fit all the monsters I use in this habitat right here. Like, there's probably like 16 monsters that I use, maybe even less than that. I mean, you kind of saw it based on what I showed you in Team Wars and the top PvP players. But yeah, it's one of these things where, like, I don't know if there's an easy answer on how to balance everything. When you look at the current monsters that are released, they have really great skills. They have dodge area, they have megatons, they have 0 cooldown skills, they're immune to control. They have so much stuff that it's like, how do you create monsters that aren't as powerful that players are okay with? Because SocialPoint has done it, right? The recent pass, Rekka was released. Rekka was a pretty good monster, but in the current meta, anticipation kills Rekka, so everyone's like, oh, Rekka sucks, I'm not buying this pass sucks. But then if SocialPoint releases a really good monster in the pass, it's like, oh, SocialPoint, you just want money, you released a really good monster, that's no fair, you have to pay for it. It's like, I feel like there's no winning. So the only thing I can leave you guys with is like, let's just give it a chance, let's be open-minded. I think we should all be rooting for SocialPoint. We should be rooting for the game to do well and not die off because, all in all, it is a fun game. I think if you just don't focus so much on trying to compete with the best of the best and just like, you know what, let's play, let's have fun, let's build a team. Because one of the reasons I love the game so much is because of the team. Like, there was a time when I used to be super active on Discord, super active on Facebook, but like a lot of time it's just a lot of complaining on Facebook and on Discord, so I've really shied away from it. But in terms of like my team, I love playing with my team. I love the team wars. I honestly love when we're mismatched and we face a top team, like you saw in the team wars that we lost. I love those because it gives me a chance to try out my strategies. It gives me a chance to see like if I'm as good as players I think I am. Like right now, let's see, who are we taking on? Is this a competitive team? It might be. So it gives me a chance to like, can I come up with a good defense? Can I beat the tough bases even though I don't have the best monsters? And even if I do have some tough monsters, like I don't have the level 10 runes like I said on all my monsters. So I have to move around, I have to mix them up. That's why that's what is fun for me. So the only thing I can leave you guys with is like, let's be open-minded to it. Maybe it will ruin the game, you know, maybe it'll be Forsaken's 2.0. I'm assuming it probably not be, because from what I can see, it does to one extent follow the Warmaster formula. At the same time, super opposed to races, but if it is what it is, I don't know. Just let's give it a try. Before quitting the game, before being mad, before saying, oh, this is terrible, before this and that, I say let's see what happens, right? Let's give it 2 weeks. Once they're out, let's see how they influence the game. Let's see how they actually impact the current monster in the game. Will all legendaries become obsolete? I doubt it. Like always, there's going to be monsters that use, there's going to be monsters they don't use. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts. I kind of rambled on for like 30 minutes, so I'll leave it there. With that being said, at the very least, just enjoy some of the videos I'm releasing with Armor Claw, because he is amazing. Thank you guys very much.